Please stand for the posting of the colors and the national anthem.
Stand by. Colors. Hands high. Right shoulder. Up. Colors ready. Cut. Both wide. Hut. Mark time. Colors. Up. Raise hand. Up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Right shoulder. Up. Colors turn. Hut. Colors ready. Cut.
Bienvenidos. Welcome to the 2021 Sociedad Honoraria Hispánica, Spanish National Honor Society, Induction Ceremony of Communication Arts High School. My name is Tatiana Barajas, the president of this year's chapter, and I would like to congratulate all the new inductees here with us tonight. The Spanish National Honor Society is an organization dedicated to leadership, community service, and academics. This has been a very successful year for the chapter in all areas, and we look forward to another great year with our new members. Our success would not have been possible without our dedicated, hardworking officers and our other supporting members. I am proud to introduce this year's officers for Communication Arts. President, myself, Tatiana Barajas. Vice President, Shreya Maya. Secretary, Carolina Lopez. Treasurer, Anand Sukal. Historian, Sofia Estrada. Also, it is a privilege to present our guests of honor. We want to thank them for their great support. Lisa Baker, Principal of Communication Arts High School. Michael David Alicea, Vice Principal of Communications Arts High School. Amanda Banda, Programs Coordinator. And last but not least, our wonderful Spanish teachers and SNHS sponsors, Maestras Dora Delgado and Cynthia Driggers. Thank you for all that you have done for our school. Now, Carolina will introduce our first student performance.
The Spanish National Honor Society has a long tradition of valuing success and talent in our members. For example, you may have noticed the artwork as you joined our meeting. It was created by our Spanish students. This year, we have decided to showcase the wonderful talent of some of our very special SNHS members. The performance you're about to hear is an original poem by Shreya Estrada called Tu Maravilla, and it expresses how the opinions of mankind can evolve over time.
Tu maravilla. Hace unos tiempos fuiste odiado por ser una apestosa distracción. Te da niños enlaces en un nivel personal. Ahora eres enormemente apreciado por las no imaginadas maravillas que cumples. Estamos perdidamente adictos a ti. Ahora tus habilidades nos traen esperanza a todos porque tienes el poder de saquear el hambre de la comunicación y haces posible el trabajo eficiente y nos permites quedarnos conectados a esos que no podemos ver. Ahora has irrevocablemente cambiado nuestro antiguo pensamiento de ti. Te necesitamos como el oxígeno para respirar y vivir la vida y disfrutar de tu divinidad. Eres importante como el rayo de sol y gotas de agua que caen a una hoja para que se reviva. Eres innovación esperanzadora. Eres cambios positivos. A un objeto irracional vacío de sentimientos y emociones, incapaz de pensar. Eres vida. Y hablo contigo para demostrar el significado que das a nuestras vidas miserables, así descubriendo tú la hipocresía de la humanidad.
Thank you, Sherry. Here we go. Nuevos miembros de esta sociedad honoraria hispánica. Salud. Estamos reunidos aquí para la iniciación de este grupo de estudiantes que ha mostrado y probado un vivo interés en la bella lengua castellana. Escuchamos todos al vicepresidente, quien nos dará un resumen corto de nuestra historia y de los fines de nuestra sociedad.
Esta sociedad honoraria hispánica fue fundada por la Asociación Americana de Maestros de Español y Portugués, de AATSP, por sus siglas en inglés, en 1953 para los estudiantes de las escuelas secundarias norteamericanas. El capítulo de Communications Arts se debe a los esfuerzos de la profesora Rosana Pérez, la que lo estableció en 1995. El nombre de este capítulo es El Morro. Nuestro lema es Todos a una. Nuestros colores son el rojo y el oro. Nuestra insignia y nuestro sello son los de la Madre Asociación.
Ahora, vamos a guardar silencio. Esta es nuestra iniciación seria y significativa. Escuchen todos con cuidado. Esta es nuestra madre vela. Nos sirve cada año. Representar la inspiración. Como ejemplo de esta inspiración, voy a recitar unos versos del poema Versos sencillos del poeta cubano José Martí. Todo es hermoso y constante. Todo es música y razón. Y todo, como el diamante, antes que luz, es carbón.
Tengo el honor de presentar a estos candidatos para Communication Arts, cuyos nombres son Brianna Aguilar, Evelyn Bergeson, Peyton Braun, Danielle Castro, Fiona Deralis, Kylie Douglas, Angel Durant, Carly English, Catarina Erazo, Natalie Esquivel, Flora Farr, Logan Gully, Irina Hernandez, Laisha Landos.
Fabian Martinez, Tanae Miller, Ava Pate, Kendall Perez, Rachel Setlick, Amarisa Soto, Clarissa Soto, Maddox Stockton, Evangelina Telles, Sergio Torres, Soraya Woods Torres, Xander Williamson, Ariana Yates, and Elias Zavala.
Esta vela tiene una llama simbólica. La llama simbólica con su color la inspiración hacia altos ideales. Now please present yourself on camera and turn on your candles.
Ustedes repitarán juntos el juramento de la sociedad, frase por frase. Como miembro
Como miembro
Como miembro
del capítulo
del
del capítulo
El Morro y Paseo del Río,
El Morro y Paseo
del
del
Río,
Río,
prometo dedicarme
prometo
prometo
dedicarme
dedicarme
al estudio
al
al
estudio
estudio
de la lengua española
de
de
la
la
lengua
lengua española
con el fin
con el fin
de dominarla algún día,
de dominarla algún día,
recordando
recordando
que una lengua
que una
una
lengua
lengua
puede ser
puede ser
un lazo fuerte
un
un lazo fuerte
entre personas
entre
entre personas
de distintos orígenes,
de
distintos orígenes,
de raza o religión,
de raza
de raza o religión,
como ciudadano
como
como
ciudadano
ciudadano
de mi patria.
de mi patria.
Prometo promover
Prometo promover
la amistad
la amistad
y el entendimiento
y el entendimiento
entre ella
entre ella
y los otros países
y los otros países
del mundo.
del mundo.
Esta es mi promesa
Esta es mi promesa
y mi juramento.
y
y mi juramento. Cada uno tiene una velita en la mano. Esta simboliza nuestra carrera en la vida. Así, sin arder existe, pero no vive. Esa velita está diciendo, si me queman vivo, si no, perezco. Ojalá que nuestras vidas nunca sean velas sin arder.
ahora cada uno ahora cada uno apagará la llama de su velita. Todos, pero nunca la de su espíritu. Recordaremos esto. Guarde cada miembro su velita en su corazón, como recuerdo de su iniciación en esta sociedad. Amigos, por la autoridad que me concede el capítulo El Morro, yo los declaro miembros de este capítulo.
Our second student presentation is a performance of an original poem written and recited by one of our very own SNHS members, Kayla Castellanos. It is called Cuando Me Crearon and expresses life before the creations of cell phones and how it was drastically changed afterwards.
Me acuerdo los tiempos en que yo no existía. Los niños corrían con inocencia infantil al lado suyo. La mente de la gente era un paraíso para ellos mismos exclusivo. Disfrutaban de lo que tenían ahí frente a ellos. Los sueños consistían de metas y retos. Los momentos eran guardados en el corazón y las memorias en las mentes de los humanos, en las almas de los que tienen vida. El día que me crearon corrompió el tiempo. Aunque tenga mis buenas características, solo se enfocan en mis fallas e imperfecciones. Los niños ahora caminan con la malicia a su lado. La mente se ha convertido en un lugar de soledad. El día que me creyeron, la envidia nació del anhelo padre de lo que no tenían. Los sueños se han convertido en espantosas pesadillas y expectativas imposibles de la gente. Los momentos invaluables ahora los guardo yo, y las memorias de internos, privados recuerdos, las poseo yo en mi tarjetita de extenso almacén, y aquí espero a que tú las guardes indefinidamente. O las borres por una pequeña cuestión, en la alma de un aparato que se alimenta de una diminuta pila. Gracias por escuchar mi poema Cuando me crearon. Soy Keila Castellanos.
Thank you, Kayla. To close our evening ceremony, we have a very special guest speaker. He's a communications arts alumni who graduated from our school in 2010. He earned both his Bachelor's of Science in Radio, Television, Film and his Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing from the University of Texas at Austin in 2014. From there, he went on to study at the American Film Institute, where he graduated in 2019 with his Master's of Fine Arts in Screenwriting. He now uses all the knowledge and skills that he's learned over the years as a TV writer in Los Angeles, California. He is currently a staff writer for the second season of the Selena this on Netflix. I proudly present to you Raymond Perez.
Hello, my name is Raymond Arturo Perez, and I'm gonna see, should I be only showing myself? Him? Did that work? I'm gonna guess yes. Hi, my name is Raymond Arturo Perez.
Yes, it is.
Awesome, thank you. I am a graduate of Communications Arts High School, class of 2010. It feels like a long time ago, but it also feels like yesterday. So it's weird and awesome to be here. I'd like to start by acknowledging how difficult and intense the curriculum at Communications Arts High School can be. So I applaud all the students here for not only continuing their education, but excelling and being inducted into the Spanish National Honor Society amidst a global pandemic. Congrats to you all, and I really hope y'all are safe and well. For those graduating this spring, congratulations. For those juniors about to start the college admissions process, good luck. I'm rooting for you all. I'd also like to thank the faculty and staff. I do feel honored and excited to be a part of this ceremony. I have such fond and many, many silly memories of ComArts. It's really, really special that I get to be back, even if only virtually. Lastly, I'd like to say hello to my parents, my brother Christian, who graduates from Construction Careers this year, and my sister, another ComArts grad, who will be graduating from Texas Tech this coming school year. So today, I'd like to talk to you all about two things. The first is the power of words and my love for storytelling. And the second is the power of language and my connection with the Spanish language. So before I get into the power of words, I'd like to talk to you about my love for storytelling. My earliest memories of storytelling were Hot Wheels cars. Back in the day, in the early 90s, I'd always want the new toy, the new thing. Thankfully, Hot Wheels cars were only 89.99 cents. So it was something that I could ask my parents whenever we went shopping that wouldn't get a no. And so over time, I started to amass this really large collection of Hot Wheels cars. And I'd always be like, hey, I have all these Hot Wheels cars, but I don't have any tracks for them to be played in. And I'd always ask for the Hot Wheels cars tracks, but those were $30 to $40, and that was too expensive. So I get a no. So after some time, I came up with the next best thing, which was when I was home alone, I'd get my cobija, or a large, thick Mexican blanket, and I'd like throw it up in the air, and however it fell, the ridges of the blanket would become my tracks. And this is my like earliest memory of storytelling. And it would just be me, my cars, and my cobija. And we would start making like almost like a Fast and the Furious kind of movie in my head. And people would die, and there'd be like love stories, and it's romance. And usually at the end, only one or two cars survive. And almost always it was the pink and green Corvette or the purple Mustang, which would not be a surprise to a lot of my friends today. But it was a little later that I started to learn words, and I like lost my mind when I learned to use words. If I wasn't yapping into the ears of my parents of all the things that I was learning and consuming, I was writing furiously into my writer's notebooks. I would do like fairy tale mashups or like melodramas of pre-adolescence and adolescence, or poems or other short stories. And that's when my storytelling kind of started to grow a little bit more. I also had teen parents growing up. And so that meant we rarely had a babysitter. And I watched a ton of mature films that either scared the pants out of me or made me question things that I shouldn't have at that age. But it was something that as I got into middle school, my love for storytelling really started to grow. So I had this love for storytelling that was in my Hot Wheels cars and in my writer's notebooks. And I also had this love for storytelling that was in film and television. And it was in middle school that something shifted, because during dinner, my parents and I would watch what I was considering more mature content at the time. And so we'd be eating dinner and we'd either watch Lost, Grey's Anatomy, or Desperate Housewives on ABC, which at the time had some of the most diverse cast on network television. And what was great about having diversity is you have these characters that come from such a myriad of backgrounds, races, ethnicities, cultural upbringings, socioeconomic statuses. And because of that, we were able to have these conversations about things that we wouldn't otherwise be talking about. Conversations about race, ethnicity, sexuality, religion. And it was these raw and honest and authentic conversations that I was having with my parents that I started to like really question anytime we had differences, and start to get under some of the prejudices that my parents held. And particularly zeroing in on a character from Lost. His name was Saeed, and he was an Arab character. And I would say he was, at surface level, someone who was the least like my parents and how they were raised. And so I'd always have these conversations going back and forth about why they felt the way they did. And as the show progressed, what's great about TV or traditional TV, like back in the day, is that you see an episode a week and you welcome these characters into your home. And so they really do become an extension of your family. And so such was the case of this character named Saeed, who at surface level seemed very, very different. But the more we got to know him and understand him as a human, the more we recognized the things that were similar, the things that were the same between my parents and Saeed. And in this particular episode, when we got into his backstory, we realized that his journey on this show was really just about reuniting with his long lost lover. And after that episode ended, my parents, in their own words, turned to me and were just like, in their own words, were saying, you know, despite our differences in culture, language, and religion, like, we just want this character to be happy. And it was in that moment that I recognized the unique power of TV, of being able to create empathy. And I think that's, for me, what the power of words are to create empathy with the world. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so that was me connecting my love for storytelling and this love of writing and film and television. Now I'd like to talk about the power of language. And in discussing that, I'd like to specifically talk about my relationship with the Spanish language and how that started with my relationship with my abuela Rosa. My abuela Rosa immigrated to the United States in 1980 into Los Angeles, California. And in 1992, she had her first grandkid, me. She told me I was her favorite. It's on the low, but she did mention it a couple times. And some of my most like fond memories with my grandma are just me being like a spoiled kid and her just like treating me like the best thing in the world. I remember getting injured and crying, and I wouldn't stop crying until I got the special crema, which was just a Mexican lotion. And she'd start rubbing it on the wound, and then she'd say "sana sana colita de rana," this like Spanish kind of phrase of healing. And then as soon as it was finished, I was suddenly cured. Another memory I have is of all the goodies that she would have whenever she was taking care of me. She'd have like canela, or sometimes she'd have like fresas con azúcar, or she'd have pepinos. And I was with her quite a bit. I'd even go with her to church on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. And she'd always let me stick with her at church and not go to the scary place with all the older kids. And so I would sing all the hymns in Spanish with her. And in 1999, my grandma passed away. And it wasn't until much later that I recognized that my connection with the Spanish language was rooted in my relationship with my grandma. That it was the power of the Spanish language that allowed us to connect authentically. As I grew older, I speak English with my parents. And so I didn't have a space or people to really use the Spanish language the way I used it with my grandma. So my Spanish was pretty broken. ComArts became this opportunity to really redevelop my relationship with the Spanish language. And what I remember about that is sometimes there'd be this distinction of non-native speakers and native speakers. And I always felt like I was kind of in the middle somewhere, because I grew up learning English and Spanish, but where I was at was definitely not on par with the rest of the native speakers. I think the kind of takeaway for me from that was just like, regardless of non-native or native, we were all taking the class. And we're all trying to get better at speaking and reading and writing the Spanish language. And so I'm going to segue into a story about a non-native speaker that I've had the opportunity of learning a great deal about. And that is Selena Quintanilla Perez. She, I'm honored to be a part of season 2 of Selena the series. I was a writer for the second season, and I've learned a great deal about her story. And what I wanted to share with y'all was this one particular anecdote of her going on her first press junket in Mexico, and the amount of nerve she had, because she had already done interviews and she'd use like Spanglish to kind of get by, and it'd be part of the joke, and they'd understand that her Spanish was, not quite at the level that it needed to be. And so she really thought that like she was going to offend people by going on this press junket in Mexico. And she did it. She came back to Texas, super nervous. And finally the articles came out, and she recognized that not only did they not like diss her or think of her as someone else and not take her like, at the time, whenever American born, US born artists tried to enter a primarily Mexican or Latin American space, they would be like, oh, those are second rate. Like, those aren't really Tejano singers. Those aren't really, and I said Tejano, but I mean cumbia. So like they would say like, that doesn't really count. And so she was afraid that by not knowing the Spanish language intuitively, that she would also get branded that way. But when she went home and started reading the articles, a lot of the phrases were about how they were referring to her as their daughter or as the queen of their town, la reina del pueblo, la hija. And she was very, very surprised. And the reason being was many of these journalists were accustomed to speaking with pop stars and celebrities of the time who were primarily white in their skin complexion. But this was one of the very first few times where they had a brown-skinned woman who looked like someone from their area of growing up. And so they really claimed her as their own. And Selena kind of reflected on this and was like, well, if these people claim me as theirs, let me make sure I get a handle of their language so that I can really communicate with them, so I can really connect with them the next time that I have the opportunity to go on another press junket. And so she did. She ended up studying the Spanish language. She took a break from music, from doing any other publicity, to really study Spanish in 3 different cities in Mexico, to also understand the nuances, and really be ready to go on the next time that she went out. And I share that because I think, again, there is a power to words, and I do think there's a power to language. And the power of words for me is creating empathy, and the power of language is connection. And y'all all being here, to me, shows that you probably have a very good handle of the English language. You've armed yourself with the power of English. And so I really just want to encourage y'all to take this opportunity to arm yourselves and continue your journey with the Spanish language, because it's just going to give you that much more opportunity, not just in the career side of things, but also on the personal side of things too. You open up yourself to connecting with so many more people. And that's all I have to say today. I want to congratulate you all again, and thank you for allowing me the time to be here.
Muy bien.
Thank you, Mr. Perez, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today. We truly appreciate you and the work that you're doing. So now, on behalf of the Spanish National Honor Society of Communications Arts, we thank you all for attending this ceremony and accepting these wonderful students into the world of the Spanish culture. You, the family and friends here, make this ceremony a special one for each of our inductees. We hope you have a wonderful evening. Good night.